Hello and welcome back to another episode on our WordPress instruction series. I'm Sam and I'm going to walk you through now a bit about plugins and what they do and how they can change up your WordPress site. We're using our local development site here, so the one that we made in the last video. All you need to do to start it up again is just click the play button up here in the top corner or click start site. Now mine started, mine says stop, but it'll take a couple seconds to boot up and then just click the WP admin button and then it'll open up in your next tab over here, which is our WordPress site. So on your left hand side here, if we have a look, we're looking at a couple sort of options for out of the box for making changes and making small adjustments to the website or overhauling the theme and the like. And we're going to do a little bit of that in this episode. So we're going to start with plugins. So if you can either click on the icons in this menu or you can click installed plugins, one or the other, and that will take you to the full plugin list. In our what we want to do is install a couple plugins, so we're going to go click add new plugin, and what that's going to do is open up our plugin load screen like so, and we're going to install a couple plugins to start with. We're going to install the contact form 7 plugin, which is form 7. You can search for any plugin you know up in the top box here, and once the query is complete, it'll auto start searching for items. Might need to be a little bit more specific, it looks like. That's all right. Try featured and we'll see if it's in there. Here we go. So we're going to install a couple plugins to start. There we go. We're going to install a couple plugins to start, and we're going to start with Contact Form 7. We're going to do Yoast SEO for our SEO, and it's out of the box. It does the job. We're going to install really simple SSL to make sure that we have SSL locally, and that should do for now. Another plugin I generally also recommend using if you are an agency is Google Sitekit. It's kind of handy if you do use Google Analytics. It can just connect your analytics up to the dashboard of your site. I don't have a Google Analytics connection for this site since it's a demo site, so there's no point in installing it, but it is quite handy to use. Another one I want to quickly highlight is a common problem that we do see with folks with doing non-managed hosting, where managed hosting providers will provide you a backup or a backup system and keep 30 days or 45 days of backups or whatever it ends up being. You are left in the dark to kind of run your own backups, and normally that's not a huge problem. You can run a plugin like Updraft or all-in-one backups or anything else like that. But generally, left out of the box, these actually back up to a directory on your WordPress install. And that can affect storage. It can affect the availability of your backup. So if your site goes down and you need to restore a backup, well, you can't restore a backup if your site doesn't work. So a handy plugin to use is Updraft Plus. And what this does is it will allow you if you go look at someone like DigitalOcean, or Amazon S3, or if you have an FTP server, Google Drive, Dropbox, it can actually help update a backup of your site to an external service, which I do recommend. It keeps it off the WordPress install, and it means your backup is available to use. If you can't get direct access to a WordPress install, let's say it's a DDoS attack or something like that, you can just mark the domain as unavailable. If you route it through Cloudflare, you can go under attack mode and then restore your backup if you have a malware problem or something like that. A really handy plugin to use. But by now, our plugins should have been installed, and they have, and we have Activate on them. I've installed a couple, so what I'm going to do is click back to our installed plugins on the left here, and then I'm going to highlight all three here on the left just with this toggle, and then bulk actions, and then click Activate, and that will activate all three. Normally, if you just click install one plugin, there's that blue Activate button that we saw before. You don't have to do that. You can just bulk add on here as well. It all works the same. It all turns everything on. Now, depending on your hosting provider, the really simple SSL plugins just popped up here. You can actually select a SSL provider and your hosting provider and make sure there's no issues with the way the SSL certificate is provisioned. For us, we're not hosting anything particularly. It's on our local service, but I've hosted with companies like DigitalOcean, Flywheel, GoDaddy, WP Engine. They all work the same sort of way. And most Flywheel and GoDaddy and WP Engine actually also give you SSL certificates. So in a lot of the time, this plugin's not really necessary, but I'm just sort of teaching some best practice sort of things and things to kind of make things work a little bit more efficiently for you. So you can click here, install SSL certificate to get started. Click save and continue. And we're going to populate some information here for now. And then click I agree. And click include alias. And then domain, that's fine. Right, and a quick cut later, and some movie magic, and we've gone from our general settings and saved everything to the system status to provisioning our SSL certificate. So it will tell you if there's any complications or the like, but that looks to be done. Excellent. Now, what this will do is this is kind of an add-on that you'll see normally out of the box. You don't have these sort of extra SSL and security buttons built into WordPress. It's kind of an example of what happens when you sort of start adding in extra plugins, and they do have their own menus. And a sort of a prime tangent to that is our Yoast SEO plugin. If you notice down here, we didn't have an Yoast SEO tab before. So a lot of plugins will code in configuration sort of tabs for you on the left hand side, and if you do run a lot of plugins, this is kind of where this left hand side menu can get a little bit dense. But some plugins also who are more like utility based, like an SSL plugin or the like, will give you configuration options under either something like tools or something like settings. And most plugins also have documentation you can read, and they have setup steps on their plugin pages, so you aren't left in the dark. You can just follow those instructions and get up and going pretty quickly. But now we've got our Yoast SEO plugin. So out of the box, this will not be configured. Another example, you can click first time configuration, and then we can click continue. And all this will do is step you through a couple steps. I'm just going to briefly click through all these here and just blast through it all, because we don't have a social profile for our fake site. We don't have personal preferences or anything, but if you do, you would fill these out in a little bit more detail. Good thing about Yoast is they do also have an academy where they can teach you how to do your SEO basics. Rank Math SEO do the same thing as well. So a lot of the good mainline SEO plugins can actually teach you how to do good SEO, which is, if you're not skilled in that area, it's quite handy knowledge to have, especially on a smaller sort of maintenance scale. But that's a couple little additions here. Now, the last little one I want to highlight is our contact form. If we have a look, Contact Form 7 is one of the more common plugins you'll find for contact forms on more basic sites. There are plenty of plugins out there that handle contact forms, things like WP Forms, Gravity Forms, a bunch of others. You can build one yourself if you like. You can embed a HTML form. WordPress is pretty flexible in that regard, but Contact Form 7 is pretty basic to a fault in some cases, but it is really easy to configure a form for what you need. And it is, in a lot of cases, just a matter of bracketing in the label, your email field, the subject of your email, adding in a couple extra options like a button. You can add quizzes. You can really get real specific with this for a fairly Spartan interface. But you can configure your mail out settings from the mail tab here, where your email should be from, who it should go to, all these sorts of things. A lot of these plugins will have these sort of configuration steps built in using some commonly used examples, which is pretty nice. Lastly, if I wanted to embed this plugin, how would I do that? How do I go and embed a form like this? Well, there's a few things that you can way to do that. So you can either manually embed the block in these cases. Remember, we mentioned in our first episode, roughly mentioned what blocks are, and we'll get into that in the next episode a little bit more. And so I dive into when we start building out a page. But you can do this one of two ways. You can embed a short code, which is this here, which is an older way of embedding content on WordPress, and most still providers will support them, especially for those who are still using a mix of Classic and Gutenberg. If you want to click on this, you can just click copy, and then we'll go to our pages, and then we'll go to our sample page, and just click next. This is giving us a tour of Gutenberg. And then if I want to I'm just going to whack it right at the top. You can type in /short, which is short for short code. Click on short code, and then you paste in that little snippet that it gave you there in the blue in this section here. Now, if I also wanted to manually embed the block as well, because most plugins are block compatible, you would click on the blue plus up here. We can type in contact. And there we go, there's Contact Form 7. You can click it, and it'll either just go to the bottom of the page, like so, if you just click it, but I want it to go at the top, so I'm going to drag this underneath my top form, and then you can select your form. See, there's a few more controls when you use blocks. A lot of the sort of beauty of using block-based tooling and editing within Gutenberg is there is a lot more control in the editor versus having to hop out of the editor, go into a plugin, make the changes, come back, or the embed or the like, which is, you know, some niceties. And then we're going to click update in our top left corner here, and we're going to view our page. And there we go, our sample page with our first shortcode plugin, shortcode contact form, and then underneath it is our block. They look exactly the same. A shortcode and a block do the exact same thing. There's no differences, and that's how you basically would embed that with a block, which is kind of cool. So that's a bit of a brief overview on plugins. There are hundreds of thousands of plugins out there, and you will notice that if you look at sort of page builders, something like, you know, if I type in, for example, Elementor, which is a popular page builder, arguably I think it's the most popular page builder for WordPress, and once it loads, you will notice not only is there a plugin to get the free version of Elementor, but there is a lot of other plugins to sort of expand on Elementor. Some legit, some not. It would benefit as well if you want to sort of test out what is sort of looking legitimate and what isn't. You can see the number of activations, which is kind of a good indicator of whether or not it's something, a passion project someone's built, what sort of adoption rate is. Normally it will filter by popularity. So I've got keyword filtering here. I can filter by authors, filter by tags, but normally if I scroll down, you can kind of see, you know, where the more sort of add-ons are, and also locally as well. It might not have as accurate a search, but you can go into popular if you want to just granularly feed down and search more plugins. Yes, there we go. Here's Elementor. There, you look at 5+ million activations, 6,786,000 stars. Probably a pretty reputable plugin. And there's add-ons for Elementor as well. If you type in Elementor add-on as an example, this would be configuration sort of tools that kind of just live within Elementor or around it. Here you go, it's another good example. Elements Kit, Elementor add-ons, and templates library. Essential add-ons for Elementor. Both plugins have over 1 million active installations. They are well reviewed, they've been updated and compatible with our current version of WordPress. If you are exploring add-ons, plugins, and the like, it is important to make sure that they are compatible with your current version of WordPress, or if you are familiar with WordPress, at least the last couple of versions. We're on a 6.5 right now, 6.5.2 specifically. A lot of these plugins would be compatible back with 6.2 and 6.3. If we're going older than that, then we might be running into issues. And if you are sort of maintaining sort of legacy sites, there's probably a chance not a lot of these add-ons will work for you. But it is important. Here's a great example. Untested with our version of WordPress, meaning that even though this was updated 3 days ago, the developer may not have actually changed their flag to be supported to 6.5.2. It could be 6.5, it could be 6.4 or another version of it, but things to look out on. Yes, it's got over 100,000 active installations and it's pretty well reviewed, but it might not be compatible. Doesn't mean you can't install it, but if you do have a white screen or a 500 error that pops up, which we can get into what those look like in later episodes, how to debug WordPress, this might be a culprit and somewhere to start. So that was a bit of a rough primer on plugins and what they can do. You can kind of see how to update and load plugins. In the next sort of sections of the course, we're going to go through pages, adding pages and adding content to pages, using our Yoast SEO add-on to sort of add keywords and the like, and sort of muck around with what plugin-based add-ons can do to pages and see what that looks like. And thank you for coming along for a bit of a brief episode. And if you have any questions, please pop them in the comments below. Drop me an email and I'm happy to help as best I can. And sorry for the squeaking chair on the first couple episodes. I do generally try to record a bit late at night, so my wife and my son aren't a little bit affected by the recording. So you do hear this a little bit with my chair. I do need to replace it, so apologies for that. Hopefully we can work through the squeaking together, and I'll be sure to buy some WD-40. Thank you very much for your time here, and I will check you out in the next episode. Have a good day.